of Wednesday, December 9th. We've had a special presentation by RDM. And in a minute, we'll just go right into the regular meeting. Before we do that, I'd like to ask for a standing moment of silence for our fellow citizens in San Bernardino, and pray that our public officials can somehow keep the people that hate us and want to kill us from entering the country. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Make the announcement. We have another moment.
One of our former councilmen's wife passed away, Patty Petruzzi. So can we have a moment of silence for her, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I just heard about that.
Yeah, I was just in the paper today.
Yeah, he just dumped all this.
Okay, everyone has the agenda. This is a workshop, of course. I was authorized by council several weeks ago to solicit proposals from financial institutions for a tax anticipation note for 2016. You do have in your packets, I think on pages 4 and 5, the RFP template. It was circulated among 5 different financial institutions. We only received one bid, and our bid was from our current bank that we deal with right now, and that is with First Commonwealth. I'm going to open it now, and if you look on page 5, if you want to record what their proposal is. Drum roll, please.
We have $1,100,000.
We asked for 1.1 million at the time that we did the RFP, because that was in the proposed budget at that time. It has since been scaled down to 800,000. But we could read that to mean not to exceed 1.1 million. What I have here is an interest rate of 1.9%. There would be no points assessed to this TAN, and the origination and processing fees is $1,197. I did ask for other documents. That would be the filing of the unit debt act that we have to do with DCED for authorization to incur debt. Last year we had no problem with that, simply because we had our audits completed. We don't anticipate any problem this year, but First Commonwealth has prepared those documents for us, as I can see here. So I would suggest that at our action meeting on the 16th, based on this and the review of the documents with the solicitor, that we would recommend to enter into an agreement with First Commonwealth for a tax anticipation note not to exceed 1.1 million, but more than likely would be less than that.
Is that a good figure? Is that
1.9? It was 1.93 last year, I believe.
that's good?
You mean the percentage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Understand with the tax anticipation note, we have to pay that back within the year that we incur that debt. It's not long term, it's short term. So we obviously need the revenue to pay that back.
I'm just surprised that no other banks responded.
Number one, we did advertise it. Number two, we sent proposals directly to Citizens, PNC, Huntington, First Commonwealth, and I believe First Niagara. Okay, the next thing that I have on the agenda is landfill request for proposals. The council authorized me to solicit proposals from landfill operators for 2016. If you look on page 8 and 9, it's simply a one-page proposal for landfill operators to give us the cost per ton to dispose. Those bids will be due next Wednesday. And there's essentially only two operators right now. Our existing operator, which is Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill, which is in Bell Vernon. And the other one is operated by Waste Management, Kelly Run, and that's in Elizabeth. If you look at page 9, that's a snapshot, at least up through mid-November, of the amount of tonnage that we dump. Roughly 3,700 tons for 11 months. And the cost was $121,000, and that equates to $33 per ton. So essentially what we're looking for in the proposals is the cost per ton. And we'll know that next Wednesday, and I'll ask council to authorize me to enter an agreement, whatever those numbers show, from either of those two operators.
Where does all our recycling go to, Bob?
Recycling goes to Hazelwood, I believe, and for the electronics, it goes to, which is very minimal, goes to a place in Plum.
I think if we educate the public a little more on recycling, we could really pick that up a notch, because everything that goes in recycling doesn't go into the landfill, and I see people with a couple of little containers, and
They don't recycle at all?
yeah, I think we could do a lot better. I mean, even if we got to a point where we can get a grant to provide the containers. I mean, I have 2 garbage cans that I mark for recycling, and I fill them up every 2 weeks. They're full plus a container, so if you really work at it, you can really recycle a lot.
Our recycling schedule goes out with the garbage bills by legal tax at the beginning of the year. We could put a blurb in there or
Yeah.
a flyer on that.
Do we recycle everything? Or are there things that we're not recycling that we could?
We do normally what most communities do, the glass, the cardboard, the paper, the newspaper, the tin, aluminum.
Yeah, it's
all commingled out there, right?
Yeah, it's all together. Fill a can up, nobody has to sort through it, separate it.
Is there a minimum population yet, like there used to be, 5,000?
Well, that's by law, it has to be 5,000 or more, you are required to recycle.
And it was brought to my attention, the co-op does not recycle. How do we get away with that?
We're gonna change that.
Oh, we are?
Well, we'll get that into the budget.
Cost would come down if we, recycled up there too.
True.
One thing I wanted to add about the recycling, I actually went out on my own to, it's sort of like a recycling website. There are, I think, 6 or 7 different categories of plastics, and it listed what each category contained, the types of plastics in it. And the one category is category 3. It said most municipalities do not accept this. I don't really know what our standards are, but that's just the one I've been laboring under for years. So, you know, and every package has that on it, a little triangle and the number in it.
The number, yeah.
If it's anything but a 3, it goes in the recycling bin. If it's a 3, or I know giant eagle bags aren't something else that they recycle, they go in the garbage. So that could be something maybe we could post on the website, or even send out with the schedule. Categories 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it, it goes in the can.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Next item I have in mind is to repeal ordinance 1313. That will be for the next meeting. If you can recall, we did adopt a new animal control ordinance at the last meeting. It will be subject to the repeal of the previous ordinance that we found in the books from 1988, and that's ordinance 1313. So at the next meeting, the solicitor will conduct a public hearing, assuming there's no opposition. Council will then adopt to repeal 1313. So the ordinance that was adopted last month will take into effect. So do you have it in front of you? Next item I have is the minimum municipal obligation relative to pensions. We got some new information to share with you. I did share with you regarding the police. And that will be on pages 15 and thereafter in your handout. The police MMO initially, it was roughly about $315,000. With the recent audit, the actuarial analysis that was done by Munhall, that has come down to $232,956. I did report that at the last meeting, and I signed that off for Munhall. Since then, we've gotten the actuarial analysis on the non-uniform, and you have that on page 17 and 18. And that has since been reduced from approximately from $232,000, I think, now down to $184,000 plus. So that's good news for us, and that's for 2016, of course. Next quick item, employee retire officials luncheon. Every year, Munhall hosts a luncheon for a Christmas luncheon for the employees and the officials and the retirees. We'll be doing that again this year on December 23rd at noon. We may want to change that around a bit. Public Works tells me that they would rather have their own little pizza and pop thing at Public Works. I mentioned that to the mayor, and I think Public Works would like to do that. The police has its own spread, and we'll have a small spread up here. But last year, that was $2,400, and there was a lot of waste. So we're gonna cut that back severely this year, at least with Public Works for pizza and pop, and the police will have theirs for the 3 shifts, I know. And the rest will be very minimal up here for retirees and officials that may want to come.
Is that still paid for by the money that we get from scrap, or metals?
We don't equate that to any particular revenue stream, it's just a cost.
I know in the past, it always, what we did with the metals, it always paid for that.
But the metals, what the councilman's referring to is that whenever Public Works come across metals and anything of any value, they take it to a scrap yard, and they bring the cash back here, and the cash is then deposited. That's what you're referring to, but we don't, it just goes into the general fund. So if you're saying that goes to the lunch, it's fine. So what I'm saying is that $2,400 last year was quite a bit and a lot of wastage with a number.
Well, it does sound like a lot, especially as the Public Works, you got pizza and soda and the police, I mean, it's all in the same bucket though, that 2,400,
Yeah,
right?
well, it's gonna be
So the police
substantially
should
lower
do
than
something,
that.
we do something for the pizza and pop, and then have something for the retirees and.
Probably looking at about $1,200. Yeah, the next thing is committee board vacancies. On page 19 and thereafter, we discussed this in a previous meeting. We have a number of vacancies on page 22 through 24. As highlighted, we discussed this. A press release went out from the Valley Mirror. You have a copy of the release from the Valley Mirror. The Daily News was not willing to publish it unless it was a legal ad. I wasn't about to spend $750 for a volunteer position on that.
I understand David News is going out there.
Yes.
One resident of the year.
Yeah, probably end of the year.
Unless somebody buys before the end of the year, it doesn't look too well.
Escape was subsidizing that.
You think?
Well, the true bonus is, offsprings didn't like that.
So at any rate, we have it posted on our website. We have it posted, I think, down in the municipal building. It's been circulated in the Valley Mirror. The deadline is the 23rd of this month for letters of interest for 5 positions. Planning, this is for appointment or reappointment on the Planning Commission, 3 regular, 1 alternate on the zoning, which may be critical next year, and we have 1 on the Sanitary Authority. We also have one on the Civil Service Commission. Mr. Agrilla's term is up at the end of this year, but I understand from the chairman of the Civil Service Commission, they want to keep him on there until he passes away. So that recommendation will be coming shortly.
When you pass it? Do I need a
You're
letter?
still alive, yes, sir.
Do I need a letter to the borough that I'm still interested in?
It would be helpful for the record. That was not in the press release, but that would be helpful.
This press release says the sewer authority has 2 vacancies.
We had, if you look on page 24, and I discussed this with Mr. Terry.
No, that's supposed to be
We do have 2.
We're missing a name on there.
Bovee.
Yeah, Bovey's no longer on there.
Not
He was
Bovee.
replaced by-
Bovee. Not Bovee.
Not Bovee.
B-O-V-E-E. Yeah, not
Two up are
Bovee.
DiMartino and,
You may have taken
the
Seamus, Seamus still on?
No, he's still on.
I think
Larry's still on there.
Shams.
This is.
Bovey should be where.
Dan Bovee is
Bovee.
on there.
Bovee.
Bovey where,
both were voting.
yeah, it's confusing. Bovey where,
At any rate, that's not a position that's open.
right.
Are both men going to re-up, you know?
I don't know, they've sent their letters.
Just
over.
so knows.
And again, the way we discussed this a couple months ago is that the new council will arrange for interviews for those that have expressed interest in January, and we're looking for an appointment in February. Next item, turnkey agreement. We did sign an agreement, an amended agreement, that's on page 27 and thereafter, the turnkey. We've had some meetings with Mark Schuster and some conference calls. And again, that was to clean up our database of landlords and other kind of things. And Dave, you want to give a quick report on your involvement in that?
Yeah, he downloaded the county information and cross-checked it with our File Pro. There were some inconsistencies between the two, so I went ahead and go out and look at a couple of our apartment buildings to see how many apartments were in them. So we cleared that up, and now he's working on filling in all the amount of money we've received so far for the occupancy license, and then we're gonna be able to do a second building for that. So he's still working on cleaning up the files for us.
So we find some more? Can we find more people?
Yeah,
Or in the
there was a few
database?
more apartment buildings that we had, there was 4 units, there should have been 8. So he has, like with the county and our file, it was a good check.
So we're cleaning this up, and turnkey makes no money unless we make some money from the people that we're missing because of bad information we've had in the past. And that's 15% of the table. So that's continuing to evolve, but we're a whole heck of a lot further now than we were several months ago. Another item is the waterfront tax increment financing camera surveillance system. I'm going to defer that to Mr. Lloyd. We've been involved in the meeting that there's some TIF money available for the surveillance of the safety down on the waterfront. And there was a proposal that was submitted in concert with DA Zapala to the 3 communities, and that total cost was, you have within your packet on page 33 and thereafter. We did have a meeting, I think we're able to scale that down. I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, if you look at that, page 37, we, as a committee of the 3 boroughs, decided that we didn't need all of the MDTs that they were showing, 19 of them. Homestead apparently does need them because they're gonna be offline as of the end of the year because they can't communicate with the state police because they haven't updated, and they're on Windows XP, which is no longer supported. Pat informed me that we were at least Windows 7, so we didn't need new ones. West Homestead protested because out of that $65,000, they were gonna get 3 laptops. And I agree with them, and Homestead said okay, and they're gonna buy their own. So we nixed that item. We cut the ISP service because apparently there was a 50% markup on them paying the ISP bill. And we also took out some other, the equipment purchases we decided should go through a CoStarz. There's a legal question as to whether or not you can spend, you know, $50,000 without going out for bid, and the proposal was not gonna go out for bid. And the COG is administering that. They agreed with the 3 municipalities that would be in violation of the law if we didn't bid it. So we took those items out, and it's scaled back to about $53,000. And for Munhall's part, we said if that's acceptable, then we're in for a 1/3 share of our TIF money on that. So it's not coming out of the borough coffers. It would be coming out of the waterfront maintenance fund, of which $120,000 a year gets put into that fund. So that's that.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Next item I have on the bottom of page 1, PennDOT Safe Routes to School project. We're entering year 7, at least. I had a meeting, I called a meeting with the engineer in PennDOT a couple of weeks ago. We're meeting again on Monday. I'm demanding we meet every 3 to 4 weeks to keep this thing on course. This has gone too long. This should have been done 2 years ago. At any rate, on page 39, I've asked PennDOT to give me a schedule that we're going to live with, and it looks like the project will be completed about a year from now. If you look at the dates there, the best guess dates, and PennDOT's going to be putting together the specs. Our engineer will look at them. Our solicitor will obviously look at them. We'll go out to bid. It will be PennDOT that's going to do it for Munhall, but whoever the acceptable bidder will be at that time, the contract will be between that acceptable bidder and Munhall, which looks to be, according to PennDOT's schedule, in June.
You know, if you were in first grade when this started, when the county finished, you'd be in high school. Literally, do the numbers, it's crazy.
And there's been, I think, almost $80,000 expended,
50 plus,
engineering, and nothing, no concrete.
Well, the cemetery did concrete,
that was a cap.
I know that,
Pope took care of that.
yes, he did.
At any rate, I want to give that to you. We're meeting again this coming Monday, and we're probably going to meet again probably another Monday in January, February, and every month thereafter, because this has been ridiculous.
Can you, when we have these meetings, can you give us an update on some of the organization as far as what's going on and
Sure.
how far we're progressing?
And that's the purpose of bringing it to you now. So this was a result of our meeting of a couple of weeks ago. And we're meeting here, we're not going to PennDOT. So if anybody's available, you can certainly sit in, it's pretty boring, but.
Are we allowed to, you know?
Sure.
They're really,
The more of you, the better for me.
they're really moving fast.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's my status report on that. Page 2. As you know, on January 4th, we'll have a reorganization as well as every other municipality in the Commonwealth. Mayor Bodnar will preside at that particular meeting until a president of council is elected among the peers. And following that, we'll have the election of the other officers, as well as other appointments that normally will be followed. And I'll have a by that time, even before then, I'll have a schedule of what needs to be done for the reorganization meeting. Net leaf collection, that's completed, right off in 2015, we're done with that. I'm looking for next year to have a better way of doing leaf collection.
Does that include the sewer basin cleanings?
Yes.
No, we're still doing that.
Are we?
Yeah, we're doing that manually though.
But not through the back, we're done with the back.
Yeah, we're done with that.
And we're gonna have records of that.
Yes.
We didn't have them in the issue in 2 lawsuits, as well as it's a condition of the consent order, which we still have responsibility to, even though it's in the hands of the sewer authority. We still have to keep those sewer basins clean, subject to fine. Question,
Yeah, the leaf collection, we get back to the bags. The bag system, you know, finally we get interested in maybe selling the bags, because the paper bags, what we have to do. In the plastic bags, you have to open the bags up, and it's labor intensive, and
From a management point of view, I'm not very pleased with the way we do that, and we're gonna be planning, we see this year, to do it a little bit more efficiently and better next year. Next thing I have is Westfield. You have on page 40 and thereafter, some recent activities. I'm gonna defer this over to Councilman Foss.
Yeah, I guess I'll give you a history how this all came about. Me, I don't read the paper cover to cover. My wife reads the newspaper cover to cover every Sunday. And she hollers out to me, "Hey, don't you know that Mike Divin, he's putting together this thing with Roberto Clemente, what they're gonna do with Cuba, to have a baseball team up here, a boxing up here, an exchange program. It's on all of your pages on 41. So I didn't waste any time. I looked at the article. I know Mike Divin, probably close to 20 years. I contacted Divin and said, "Hey, we got a new field up here. It's getting constructed. It'll be done in time. It's the field where the Homestead Grays played Major League Baseball in the Negro League, and I think it'd be a great opportunity that I'd like to tell you that we'd like to have you up here. You know, let's see if we could talk and work something out." And Mike said, "Okay, let me see, let me look into it." And I didn't stop there. I also got in contact with Roberto Clemente Jr. through Facebook somehow. It's a small world. And Roberto said, "Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'll be in Pittsburgh in about 3 weeks, and I'll talk to you about it." And I get a call from Mike Divin, it was last Thursday, a week ago tomorrow. And Divin said, "Hey, we want to reserve the field. We need it for July 28th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 31st of July." First thing I did was get in touch with Bob, and I said, "Hey, Bob, we got to tentatively reserve this." To him, Bob said, "Great, let's tentatively reserve it." And the next thing I did is I got in contact with Eddie Ware, thinking that they can make this something educational, and everybody knows that Eddie Ware. And I really didn't know how to get in touch with Duke, except at the bar, and I was working, so I got in touch with Eddie and asked him to get in touch with Duke for me. As the president of the foundation, thinking, you know, we want to let them know, so make sure the field's done, make sure it's available, and also would like to have Bill Campbell, if he's available, check his schedule if he can get up here. So this past Monday, Bob, myself, Eddie Ware, and Duke met with Mike Divin on it. Divin reiterated he's very interested. We're gonna be submitting a proposal to him, Bob, right, for the field.
If council so chooses, yes.
Yeah, I think hopefully they will. When we submit a proposal from field, what our needs are, what we want, what our roles are, and so forth. During our talks, I emphasized to Divin that the borough of Munhall would definitely want the concession stands. Money that would come in from this event to go back into the recreation program. And plus, we're gonna be getting a fee structure from the recreation department shortly, which we'll look in, send that along the way to Mike Divin, who's the contact on this for Roberto. So, I mean, it's an opportunity, I think, that will put Munhall on the map. It's an international tournament. Let me give you the scoop who's gonna be in this tournament as of right now. They're gonna do Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua. They're gonna bring in 4 Pittsburgh teams, and they're also working on Mexico and Japan at this time. So it's gonna be an international tournament. They know we have the hotels at the waterfront. I mean, it's up to them to, go and book those rooms. They know there's hotels in West Mifflin, 4 or 5, I think, on Lebanon Church Road. So we seem to be a pretty good fit for this event. And like I said, I don't think we're gonna be any, cost. It's not gonna hurt us. Divin's said he's gonna be doing the fundraising, he has a team together that will be doing the fundraising for the teams they need to get to come to Pittsburgh. And he said it's about $35,000 per team, but none of that is what Munhall Borough is gonna be paying. That's gonna be on David's fundraising committee that him and Roberto will be fundraising for.
That sounds great, Rob.
Is that just a one-day event?
4-day.
4 days.
4-day tournament, and at the conclusion, he has a meeting with the Pirates. The Pirates are out of town, and they're hoping to play the championship at PNC Park. And they're also looking to get, of course, we're gonna get 4, 11, and 2, all coverage from them. He also thinks that we could possibly get some national coverage. They're looking for players to bring in that Roberto played with, and so forth. It'll be a huge event. I believe it's it'll be our feature event this summer for our new field.
It'll be a
And
home
I
run.
think we could pass it up. It will be. I already scheduled my vacation. I'm planning on taking a vacation that week. I have to go in the concession stand and make hot dogs. I'll be in there doing it.
Good job, Rob.
That's like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right, Rob?
I think it's actually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd have to look at the calendar.
If you need any help in that session or
No,
whatever.
I would,
feel with
yeah,
that.
we'll need help. We'll need help, with the recreation
Offer
committee,
my
council,
services.
some other volunteers. I mean, we'll have to have, the fire departments. They know we have paramedics right here in back of the building now, so that helps out.
Anybody could speak Spanish,
You
that would
ready?
be helpful too.
Now we got a problem.
I told Eddie where to start thinking of something, education we can use for the school district with these players. And one thing that Mike Dimmons said is maybe you can have Roberto Clemente talk to the Spanish club, the baseball team, or whatever.
Nice. I told you where I met him before, right?
What's that?
I told you where I met Roberto Clemente Jr.
No, you didn't.
On the corner of the projects when I was about 15.
Oh my God.
He was mechanic with teammates on Little Pirates. He come up, he pulls up, and Chevy Porsche, he's like, it's Roberto Clemente's son. I'm like, yeah, right. Showed me his driver's license, that's who it was.
Did he have a friend up in the garage or something?
Yeah, him and Kurt were on the
Kurt,
same
yeah.
Oh,
same
Kurt,
page.
okay, yes.
Hasn't been back since, huh?
Come back here. He's gonna be a muddle. I don't know if he's gonna be up in the spot, but it'll be possible.
That's nothing, chief. I actually stopped traffic for his dad to come out to get down 3 River
He
State.
told me that.
The next item that I have is the Whitaker Police Service contract, possible contract, if you look on page 49 and thereafter. As you know, we have a letter of interest from Whitaker that will also approach West Mifflin to kick the tires and see if there might be any possibility in 2016 for Whitaker to outsource and contract for police services for the borough. Sometime in 2016, they did meet with Whitaker, with West Mifflin, and there was a meeting a week or two ago with, you have on page 50, with the chief, the mayor, myself, and a couple council people from Whitaker, and I'm gonna turn that over to you, chief, and the mayor.
Yeah, we met with them last week. We asked them what their expectations were. Their expectations are they want their calls answered in regular patrol. They're not demanding that we have someone there 24/7 or even hourly. Apparently, they're not getting their calls answered now. They indicated to us that they have shifts, multiple shifts a week that go uncovered. There's nobody working in their town.
Wow.
So they told that their budget right now is somewhere around 200,000. They're looking to save, I believe he said 65 to 70,000 is what they're looking to save.
35 to 40%.
Right, so they're, anticipating paying us somewhere around 30, somewhere around there. I did speak to, Chief Davies in West Mifflin. They're not interested. He said he's got a 40-man department that he's working with 31 men. He can't ask them to take on any more, so they're out. So, I think we need to,
Is that more or less a go right now, we gotta do it?
it's between us and them. I mean, I can't make that decision. You have to make that decision.
Pat, does that include their school guards?
They have 2 school guards. I don't know how they would, how we would handle that. We're trying to get the school more involved in the school guards, because right now, like I told you yesterday, I was just informed by the county 911, they're not taking call-offs or report-ons anymore. So if it's a school guard or a police officer, they have no one to call. They can't call in and say, I'm reporting off sick, something, you know, whatever. We were just informed of that last Friday. I told Bob we need a big,
They do have, Chief and Councilman, page 51, about $11,500 in school
Right,
crossing guard
that's the
costs.
first thing I'm looking at.
right, they have two crossing guards, so I don't know how it's that much.
I imagine it's split with the West Mifflin School
Right.
District.
Why
They
is it so
only
high?
have two crossing guards, they're both on Whitaker Way.
Why is it so high?
They only have three, they have two permanent ones and one substitute, and they work it out amongst themselves. If one's not gonna be there, the other one will call the other one.
Why is it so high?
I don't know, that's not mine, I don't know. I don't know what they pay those crossing guards, it looks like they pay.
A lot of money.
More than they pay the cops, probably. Their cops make 12, 15 an hour, something, I believe they told us.
Well, I don't know, I mean, we're paying about $67, almost $70,000 a year in our crossing guards.
How many you got?
Total, well, we got about 10. You're looking at 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that's a good number then.
I don't know what they pay them, yeah. It's like,
Well,
I think if they were, we sat down, we told them everything that we do, you know, and I think if we would have offered them an agreement right then and there, I think they'd have signed it. So I think they're more than interested. Their mayor, two of their council people were there. Didn't have a problem pulling up their UCR. They haven't had their UCR submitted to the state in 18 months. So I don't know what their call volume is, what their call categories are. I know just because we're on the same radio frequency as them, I hear their calls. And the one councilman said they average about 10 calls per week that aren't traffic stops. Most of their radio traffic is traffic stops. You know, 10 calls a week, they've had 36 arrests year to date. We make 36 arrests in a 3-week period. I think we can do it. I think it would be a source of revenue for us. 10 calls a week, it's probably 20 criminal complaints a year. It's not going to add much to our bottom line.
That shooting that there was in Whitaker,
I'm glad they got it out of the way now.
I remember my understanding that Munhall was there 20 months before Whitaker was.
I don't know. I know we were there with the system. I don't know. Like I said, their councilman and their mayor sat there and told us that there's 3 shifts a week, that there's nobody on duty. Minimum.
Chief, when we first talked about this with Whitaker, you weren't too thrilled about it.
I never said that.
You more or less, this said that you wasn't, you know, about taking Whitaker in.
I don't recall ever saying anything like that.
I didn't have the information about it.
I just,
He said he wanted their numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
He said he wanted to look at their numbers, I remember saying that.
We don't, they can't, still to this day, can't provide us any statistics.
I
They
told
told us
them to
what
look
they
into
should.
the matter and, you know, actually come up with some of the numbers, and when we all sat down, it sounded like, you know, a positive experience, as long as well, they strength their UCRs up.
I did check with the state, we would not, if we would take over their policing, we would not be accountable for making up those 18 months. We would start from the day we start moving forward. They would probably still have to do that as a borough if they ever want to seek any kind of grant money, because that'll impede that. It can't be that hard because they're not very busy. But from what I understand, they have a non-employee civilian who comes in and does their use audit.
That would also give you control over the bridge.
So you would take.
You have some bridge
That
control
would be
there.
their jurisdiction, yes.
That would be a big responsibility that we'd have to take care of.
I believe they told us that they're gonna have, that light's gonna be constructed in the next couple months, right? The county's gonna provide that light, because they have those temporary lights that causes the accident.
So,
I think if any deals to be done, it's probably gonna be in the summer.
They have to give, to, whoever the Teamsters local is that represents them 90 days in writing before they can move on this.
So how would this work? If we took their force over,
Well,
and
we would take, they would contract for us with policing. We're not taking any of
No,
their.
I understand that. If we would take their responsibility off, and then our patrolman would write a ticket in Whitaker, and then does that go to a different magistrate?
Danny Olaz,
So it would go to a different magistrate.
Yes.
So the monies that would be brought in from the revenues from those tickets, they would go back into our borough, or would they go into Whitaker's borough?
That would be part of the agreement we would have to come up with.
Right, so these are some
And
things.
that's something that I'm sure Greg can help us out with, you know, how that's split up. I mean, if they want that money back,
Percentage or.
then we want more money up front.
Right, so.
But again, I thought the, Whitaker School, West Mifflin School District was involved when it came in, when it came to the school board and all that, but they are not.
They're
It
not.
doesn't sound like there's enough money coming back from arrests, because there aren't enough, and there aren't enough tickets to really, it's insignificant.
That's all, I mean,
Right.
they're probably, one of their biggest sources of income is traffic tickets.
Right.
Because they don't, you know, it's not a business district, so to speak, you know, a couple storefronts, but, it sounds like Whitaker really wants to, enter an agreement with us. I guess they spoke to West Mifflin, from what I understand from Chief Davies, they said thanks, but no thanks.
After I got the initial feedback from the first meeting, I did send an email to Greg and said, it looks like this is positive, and if the numbers are right, we're probably gonna wanna move forward, so start thinking about an agreement that accepts Munhall Police as their police force. And no cross suits and hold harmless and all that.
Harry Freck, who they referred to earlier, I spoke to him last week. He has a program that he can punch the numbers in if we get their data. What they say, their population's about 1,200 with about 500 homes. And that, along with their call log, we put that into the formula he has, and he would give us a good number of what we should expect in return. I just seen in the paper a couple days ago, Wilmerding, who's probably not much
Yeah.
different than Whitaker, they're
They're
paying
starting theirs up.
more for sales,
Yeah,
$237,000 a year.
That's not gonna happen.
Right, I'm not saying that, but I mean, it's,
I know it's,
Not for, Wilmington, because they got a pretty good business district.
Who's Whitaker have dispatching their calls?
Whitaker 911, they went to 911.
So they're already 911, good, okay, so there won't be any confusion
We'll
over that.
continue to pursue it, and we'll get Greg involved as we go, and hopefully it happens. It's just value-added revenue.
What do we have to do as a council to, approve this, so they will move forward?
Vote on it.
Just have to come up, you have to come up with an agreement, just come up with an agreement, they agree, you agree, have Greg draw up the paperwork, and we'll go from there.
I don't think, Councilman, I'll probably be doing the first quarter of next year, I would think. Once we get all the details. and
I'm thinking,
everything
they're,
together.
you know, they said they need, what, 90 days?
Yeah, so that
So
goes
that
into the
goes in
summer of
March, right.
2016, yes.
That's if, you know,
So they're gonna do that then?
they have to, well, according to their
Well, depending on
contract
our
with the
proposal.
Teamsters, they have to give them 90 days written notice.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, it's okay with us, for them to go and do that.
Well, I think we have to come to an agreement before they're ever gonna do it.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. I'm just saying, we agreed to move forward with it, though.
Yeah, we're waiting for contact from them. Like I said, we're still waiting for some data from them, because we didn't have much to offer.
Okay, can we move on? I think that's, it, continue on that.
Yeah, before we get into the budget, Councilman Shields had something he wanted to bring up, rather than defer to the end, we're all burned out on the budget, maybe you wanna bring that up now?
Yeah, sure. I have several pages of signatures. The head on every page is to Bernie Shields and Munhall Council. We have been in our shop at 3911 Main Street for over 5 years. Within our block and a half area, there are 5 or 6 beauty shops, real estate offices, barber shop, key shop, bakery, dentist, audiologist, chiropractor, dry cleaning, and other businesses. All of these businesses are frequented by people of all ages, but mostly those over 50. We have sat in our window and watched countless people slip, slide, and fall on these treacherous, slippery bricks. When it rains, they are slick as ice. When the weather turns cold and snowy, they are impossible to navigate. There have been many complaints regarding the situation, but to no avail. We have decided to do something about it before more people were hurt. At our own expense, we went to Lowe's and purchased specialized paint that has gritty base for better traction. Although we haven't had any cold weather as yet, it has rained and the bricks have noticeably much better traction than before. So many people have stopped by our store to tell us how well it works and how much they appreciate it. Below our signatures of local business owners on the block, and there's more than just business owners. I don't know, there's full pages, half pages. But go back about a month ago, I got a call, caller ID come up. Shouldn't have answered it. You'll find out in a second why I shouldn't have answered it. But it was a local Main Street business person I've known for years. I don't think he's ever called me, he or she's ever called me. And I picked it up and write in, what is the borough's policy on painting the bricks on Main Street? A little confusion at the time of my place, but I said, the borough doesn't paint the bricks on Main Street. No, went into someone was painting the bricks on Main Street. And what happens if someone decided to paint one color here, another color here, and that went way back to when the bricks were installed. It's been over 25 years, anybody realize that? 1990, 91, when that first phase took off at Main and Miller. It's kind of crazy.
To follow the yellow brick road?
Right. If it could be. So anyway, and then he brought it up that years ago, that if anybody would tamper with the brick, they could be charged with, defacing public property and the whole deal. And I suggested they come to the workshop meeting. The next meeting would be a workshop meeting. Well, they didn't want to hear that. I wouldn't be surprised if they signed this, just to save face with the rest of the business people. But anyway, at the time I was really busy, and I had to cut them off short. My daughter was in her wedding gown. Bridesmaids were getting their pictures taken in the front yard. I'm not lying about this.
Yeah, you took
My
the
wife
phone
was
call
giving,
anyway.
my wife was giving me the looks you wouldn't believe. So I kind of told them that I would bring this up at the last caucus meeting, or workshop meeting. And it took me a little longer than I thought to recover from the wedding, so I missed that. And I went up and I met Mel the day before Thanksgiving and looked at the brick in the front. He couldn't have been more gracious. He said, I probably should have told somebody what I was going to do, and this is what we did, and I meant no harm, and he didn't. There's no doubt. So I didn't know much about the paint. So I called a family friend, he happens to be a business agent with the masonry bricklayers that I've known for years. I couldn't hook up with him and meet him personally, so he stopped by, looked at it, called me later, and said that the paint on those brick is residential concrete porch paint.
I mean, the current stuff they put on.
That's what stuff they put on. And then he said, it will crack, it will chip, it will peel. He said, it'll be a maintenance nightmare. He said, who did that? I said, well, it's not the point. He said, they're not gonna do the whole street, are they? I said, well, I can't tell you that. He said, if it starts to chip and peel and you start to repaint it, it'll just be bad. But he came up with some different scenarios of how you could treat that without changing the color, without changing the integrity of the brick. I'm not gonna get into it tonight. I'm not gonna be here another 30 days, but we're talking about a light sandblast, a very light sandblast that would rough up the brick, a few other scenarios. But that's where we're at. I can remember sitting here with Bob Morrison, who had multiple properties on Main Street years ago, and he said it was slippery, but he had to, he treated the brick before he treated the sidewalk, and it was off and on. But this has been going on for 25 years. The brick has been, Ed, you can attest to it. The brick has been slippery since
Day one.
day one. And now we're 25 years later, and my concern with it is just the maintenance of that whole stretch. I guess if you put one in front of the other, you probably have a mile of pavers. paving brick. That's a lot of paving brick going, you know, from Miller all the way up to Cambria on both sides.
It looked phenomenal when they installed
Right.
it, and when it was maintained, it's never
It's
been.
maintained. I think it was a treatment that should have been put on there on a regular basis. I'm not sure. That would have helped, but, that's where we're at.
I forget we have them going across the streets and all the crosswalks.
And I don't know if anybody else is gonna paint the brick. I can't tell you. He did that stretch there, what, about 3 or 4 businesses he painted? But, the guy that I talked to said, that's definitely not what you wanna put on that brick. It will chip, it will peel, it will crack. But, he meant no harm in what he did up there. It's, he said, I probably should have told somebody, but, that's where we're at.
Well, did he suggest anything that we can do, well, whoever does it, to,
Well, somebody should do their due diligence, get a commercial contractor who knows the business of pavers. And, you know, a light sandblast is one thing he said he has seen before. We're talking about a light, more or less to scuff the brick.
yeah, it makes it rough.
Right, but it wouldn't change the color of the brick and, yeah, that's,
You don't have to do it all, I mean, because down the side, you don't have to do that part that's next to the street, you just gotta do where you come.
well, I noticed like in front of the Volskis, that whole sidewalk,
Yeah.
you got areas where it takes the whole thing.
Right there where that sidewalk tilts, that's real fun in the wintertime.
Right, well,
And Carmine said people get out of their cars and they actually slip on that, just getting, you know,
First step in.
step on the curb.
I walked that, I fell on it before, a couple years ago,
it's,
coming out.
It freezes.
Right on my butt.
in certain conditions, it freezes before the concrete.
You don't know this, right?
The brick freezes quick, but then the concrete's, you know, it's not the same, but, it's been a problem for quite some time.
I think the bigger issue is that the sidewalk is owned by the property owner, not the municipality.
Now, we went through this with the solicitor, since it was taxpayers' money that put it all in, this has been going back for years. Now, the problem is, no matter who owns it, businesses are responsible to insure the people that fall.
Right.
So that's,
They didn't ask for the brick here, you put
they
it
didn't
there.
ask for the brick, no.
They did ask for the brick.
They did?
They voted on it.
Oh, okay.
The Main Street, some wacko didn't come up with the brick idea. That was the Main Street Association who applied for the grant, and that was a coordinated effort. I'm not sticking up for anybody here.
Well, I
I'm
was
just
gonna
telling you how
ask,
it went
I was
down.
gonna ask Eddie to come in here tonight.
They voted on it.
Eddie was very, you know, but Eddie has a tendency to get off the deep end, so.
No, we don't.
He's very, I mean, Ronnie Watkins headed the whole program years ago. Ronnie was, you know,
Here in Doc, you know what I mean, in Doc, in the Main Street Association, and all the, they had the meetings at number 4. They were
Right,
jam
I
packed.
remember.
There was 50, 60 people when they were doing that, all those businesses participated, and then they all went away.
You know,
Now it's in
I
Doc.
remember how long it's been, when Pat and I talked last week, Pat said it's like 10 or 15 years. I said, my daughter's teaches first grade at St. Teresa, and I remember her in the stroller when they were under construction, so it's been a long time. So I'm finished, it's there, the signature's there.
What are they requesting, or what are they asking?
Nothing, that, more or less saying that they did that because they wanted to prevent anybody else from slipping.
He doesn't want us to go after him and remove the paint, that's the issue.
Right. Now, he did say, the guy I talked to, you wouldn't have to necessarily take that paint up that they already did. You could flip the brick over, those brick that are already painted.
Yeah, I mean, I think a solution might be some kind of commercial sealant, and they throw sand in it, and they seal it, and then it's, you know, I've done it on porches, you know, it lasts, but it doesn't last forever, it's a 5-year deal.
You'd have to talk to a commercial masonry contractor would be more up to what to do there.
Whose responsibility is that? Is that the Main Street Business Association take care of that, or Munhall Borough, each individual business?
Once that was turned over by the Development Corporation, each individual business is responsible to maintain what's in front of their business.
What the borough could possibly do is take a look at the different contractors and obviously have some sign off from those local businesses that care to participate of at least getting some quotes and passing that on to the businesses and what portion of that they wish to pay for themselves. We could probably get a lot of battleship gray from the Navy with a lot of sand in it, that would look different.
He just said that will
It
chip.
could be a clear sealant.
I don't know if that would help the freezing thing. I don't know.
Joseph Terra showed me that letter today, he wouldn't sign it,
Right.
and he said that he talked to Mr. Zakis, and Mr. Zakis said he talked to a contractor about sandblasting that, or about power washing that off, or something like that.
He meant no harm. There's no doubt. I saw, he couldn't have been more gracious and,
We did discuss this at a staff meeting a couple of weeks ago about the business that did something up there, and Chief and Dave and I talked about it. There's really, there's no ordinance for us to enforce for him not doing what he did.
what if someone starts taking the brick up? There's somebody on here that
Well, Bernie, we removed the bricks from our street, and we removed them.
Well, that's-
We removed them.
where the government done.
Yeah.
Taxpayers put the brick in.
Yeah.
That's taxpayers' money that, you know,
I know, because
the
some
grant,
businesses,
you know.
some businesses would like to remove the brick, because like.
Could you imagine what happens if they remove the brick? What would they put in its place?
Cement.
Concrete.
Concrete, but what if you did brick here, concrete, brick, I mean, you have to come up with some kind of plan and do it all.
I mean, that's what. Concrete's changed a lot in the last 25 years. They should, I mean, if it was now, I'm sure they'd stamp and color that concrete instead of put the pavers in.
We have that on 8th Avenue in Homestead. There's some concrete, there's some pavers, there's some asphalt, whatever.
Mel did say he was on 8th Avenue when he, part of that group that did that.
Yeah.
But,
It is ugly. It's
do they have a
real
problem
ugly.
with the brick slipping down there?
No.
Why doesn't council,
So they're different
They're
texture
rough.
bricks, yeah.
why doesn't council get the Main Street Association to a meeting, ask them those questions, and see if they're interested in pursuing it with council to find a solution? I'm sure they are all aware of it.
So for another grant, 25 years later.
It was, those guys were the ones that wanted it at the time, not all of them, because like Cuz hates it. He never voted yeah for it, you know what I mean? So, I mean, but there are, but they all didn't vote, but majority rolled on that, and that's what the.
And there's caulking that should be done on that. There's a lot more maintenance over the years. It has to be done anyway.
Plus, whenever you have to break that sidewalk open, it's a bugger to put back.
Well, I'm sure it is.
It's not easy to put back.
Who's supposed to maintain, like, around the trees, and is it the business owners, is it
The
the
poles.
borough, is it the?
We've done it.
We did telephone poles, they've taken them up around the poles up there, and they just let them sit, not gonna.
Pile up, bricks pile up that high.
All right, well, to be taken under advisement, let the manager come up with maybe a plan, get in contact with Spellman or the Main Street Business Association and start a dialogue on how to move forward. So we can then move into number 6.
Okay, Bernie, if you want to give me that, I'll follow up with that. Number 6, preliminary 2016 budget. Just to recap on page 52. We submitted a proposed budget to council on October 21st. We had hearings on the 28th on police and fire, public works and sanitation on November 4th. Recreation Administration, November 10th. We looked at revenue projections on November 18th. On December 4th, we came up from our discussion of a preliminary 2016 general fund budget, which has since been advertised and it's available to the public, as well as a tax ordinance projected to be adopted on December 16th. And you have a copy of the budget attached on page 54 and thereafter. It's been tweaked a little bit since then with some projections and other revenues that we saw. And of course, it's been updated for those that were not involved in the last meeting. At the end of November 2015, the previous budgets were looking at year-to-date from September, so we had more better information to do some projections. So obviously there is some discussion for this evening. I'm going to direct your attention to page 55. I had initially projected a 1.3 mil increase. From the last meeting, 1/3 was knocked out. That would have been dedicated to the library. And it was suggested to keep the 1 mil in for further discussion. knocked out?
I think it was reason for it, basically discussed, Rich, because I think some of us just thought 1 and 1/3 was just too much of a jump with everything with the sewer authority doubling our rates and so forth, and we could just find room in the budget for that, 125,000.
So as it is right now, we have a 1 mil increase that is within the budget, which is designated as a road tax. 1 mil brings in $390,000, but with the collection rate, we're estimating about $370,000. So for that revenue coming in, equal amount would be dedicated to nothing but roads, period. Number two, the elimination, and we discussed this with RDM, of the 3% early incentive of paying real estate tax. We're back to the normal 2%. Number three, elimination of the early incentive payment of garbage fees. So everyone would be paying the same amount, $55 per quarter or $220 per year. The way it is now, there was an incentive of $180 if you pay early. And a good number of people did. I forget what that percentage was. I put a $50,000 savings there. RDM projected better than $100,000 based on the discussion this evening. Number four, Homestead Munhall Housing Association to increase their annual payment for garbage pickup by $6,000. That has not been increased since 2007 or 8. It was at $48,000. We're projecting to put in an additional $6,000. Excuse me. Also, decentralized recycling. They have 1 or 2 recycling bins within that complex. We're not doing that now. That would be part of the trade-off for that. And also number 5, depending upon which council wants to do, at least for the first half of 2016, I'm going to need to monitor our expenses. We have certain fixed expenses, but there are some discretionary things that I would certainly need to keep an eye on and defer maybe until the middle of the year to see where we are financially with this stringent budget. So the rest is up to council on what you want to discuss and debate and add or subtract or whatever you need to do. My hope is that by the 16th next week, you will adopt the budget. If you choose not to adopt the budget by law, you have to by 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. So last year we were here on the 30th of December. So we can at least get a lot of the cards on the table and a lot of the horse trading and get all these issues out tonight. Hopefully we'll have a budget for you to adopt next week.
Question? Now, we talk about a $1 million real estate tax increase designated as a road tax. Now, would that be for this year only? Would that be, what?
My thought is it's a 1-year deal.
Right, no. So it would be a $1 million increase just for 2016.
Right.
Now, how do we know that? Once you, right, you'd have to, watch
No,
the
that's
one.
one.
It's in there, it's usually never taken out.
Right, once it's there,
Once it's there, it's usually never taken out.
then you can line item it. We discussed this one time before on something, but you'd have to get the solicitor involved because this wouldn't go away.
No,
Only unless council took it away.
you could just swipe it right out of your budget every year.
Right.
It doesn't have to stay.
Voted to cut.
What I'm saying is, my concern is, not so much that is, if you don't use the 1 mil just for streets, maybe a year from now, use it for something else, and you don't pay for it.
And that's
do that.
that's the pitfall of not taking
Right.
it to a referendum.
Right,
But we don't have time to take it to a referendum to have money to do it next year. So, and I'm not gonna be here, you're not gonna be here, but
something comes up and someone, well, we didn't have the resources this year to use the 1 mil to pave streets. What do you tell people? You tell them now, that's what you're gonna do, and 2 years from now, well, you really can't do that.
well, but I think the consensus of thought is it's a one-time deal, and hopefully, beginning early in the spring of next year, there should be talk of a comprehensive plan, and we know we've studied the streets for there to be a bond issue put together so that you know, in 2017's budget, you can begin to have a major road repaving program, and your revenue from the waterfront's gonna go up in 18.
That was kind of the email I sent out, that was kind of my point, that we're, dedicating $390,000 this year just, but then we floated the bond issue, then we're still gonna, and I'm all for footing the bond issue to update the roads. But then we're gonna have to keep that tax in to pay the bond issue month. Anyway,
Well, you
so,
won't.
the bond issue for the year.
The bond issue is only gonna be, no, they won't let you do that. Probably 6 or 7 years on a road project. But in 2018, you're gonna have about $500,000 more money coming from the TIF, or from the waterfront, that you're not getting now.
I mean, my one thing I just wanted to think about was, you know, is it worth it just to bite the bullet one more year, get the bond issue in next year, then do the major road projects in 17?
Well, you know what, I don't have a problem with that, I'm not gonna be here, but if we propose this and this is advertised, and people don't come out and say, look, we need to have our roads paved, then you don't pass the tax. But if 150 people come and say, look, you gotta do this, you gotta fix our roads, then you pass the tax.
I'm just, you know, fearful of
I can't tell people
everything
should
going
wait
on.
another year.
So, 390 is not even gonna cover Ravine now, it's only gonna be, you know, touch about half that project if we do. Put it all in Ravine,
No, but
it's
you
only,
gotta start.
Ravine's the only thing that's gonna get touched next year.
Woodhill's terrible.
If you don't fix, the engineering report on Ravine Street, at this point said that part of the base is bad. But if you let it go, then you're gonna be doing road reconstruction as opposed to road resurfacing.
I think once they get down to the subsurface, they're gonna have to be doing some road restructuring anyhow down there.
You're
That
gonna
road's
float a
bad.
bond, do a major road repair.
Yeah, that road's
I
bad.
don't think we ought to have a,
I mean, 390 is not gonna cover it.
Hey, no.
What we need to get done for Ravine for next year. It's
Just
not
put the library tax
gonna
back in.
cover it.
You don't think what road, we shouldn't have a tax?
not like we're gonna float a bond.
You decide, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, with the increase in the garbage fees and with the sewer authority increasing, you know, the sewage tax, I mean, you know, to throw another tax on, I mean, these are taxes, whether we wanna call them, you know, increases, whatever, they're all taxes in one way or another.
I'm not advocating.
Yeah, I mean, I can't vote for a one bill increase, you know, that's just me.
In 8 years, I voted for one $500,000 tax increase, so I'm not, but if it's something that's dedicated that we need, we just, one thing that the consultants didn't quantify for us, and should have quantified, was what is the estimated amount of deferred maintenance in the borough? And it has to be $6 million, just in road maintenance. And that's what gets communities into trouble.
And we're looking at this building too, right out in front of the building, I mean, the sidewalk out there is terrible. Yeah, windows are fall, I mean, this building, you know, you're looking at probably, I would say 200,000-300,000. We have both in the end roofs.
Don't fret about the building, it looks like we have hot water now.
Do we?
No, that was just a proposal.
Oh, we didn't get it yet.
Oh.
No, but I mean, if you're gonna dedicate that $1 million just to road repair, then this building's just gonna fall down around everybody.
That window fell in.
That's
Yeah,
scary.
I mean, that's, you know, you can't just say, you know, you never say never, whatever you're saying, this is just for this. You can't do that. I mean, that's just my opinion of it, I just can't do it, so.
But for technical purposes, we can argue this out at the regular meeting.
I'd rather argue that right now. I'd rather argue it now and get it settled, so we know what you're adopting.
I hear that the preponderance seems to be for no tax increase.
I don't want to pass it.
3, 4, that's 4, so just nix it.
Can't vote at this meeting, I wasn't
I said preponderance. Seems to be.
I'll just say this and then I'll shut up. We got a year of flux, FLU, yes, all over the place, not only on the field. You have no idea what's going to happen in Munhall next year. You've got all these difficult problems besides Ravine Street, and besides this entire borough building, we have to have something done.
Exactly.
And we're talking about a bond issue in 2017, at least I've been thinking that way. I'll tell you right now, with the money that you have allocated, I will not sign a budget for 11.75 mils. And you can go from wherever you wanna go. I got a lot of on December 31st, if that's what you wanna do. But, you know, I'm not signing the budget, let's look forward to, like Robbie said, and I said to him, the bond issue, and deal with all these problems, things that we're gonna have to address. That's my position, and
Well, the good news is, it looks like we're gonna have our first capital reserve fund since we sold the sewer lines. Because we should end the year with about $150,000 in the bank. And so, that was another thing that the consultants talked about, and again, that would be our first capital reserve fund, virtually ever, because before they just used to borrow the sewer sinking fund money.
Right.
But I will say this, I will not, you know, you have a sewage increase going to the public, you nailed it there. You have.
We didn't nail it.
garbage-
We did.
We didn't know
Yes, we did, they work for you,
the sewer authority.
yes, they work for you, you're the sewer authority.
No matter how you look at it, it's still an increase to the public.
Not only that, but, you know, you've got the other matter, the garbage increase and all that. You're beating the poor public out there. We don't all live in North Hills. And it ain't that easy just to say, reach in and get another $100 for garbage. Because our people in the lower end of the town, obviously, you know, have their problems. As a matter of fact, I can assure you that, because I paid for some of those problems. But I will tell you what I told you, and there's so much more I can go into. I can make a lot of corrections in the budget. I'm not gonna do that tonight, but I'll do it next week if, you know, it depends on what you choose. So, that's where I stand. I'll be gone.
I'd rather do the horse trading tonight, get out of the way.
Did you
But
put the
anyhow,
$100,000, did you put the $100,000 in for the field?
Fifty.
It went down.
It went down to 50,000? And did we,
That's not maintenance, that's the capital sinking fund.
That's the reserve fund that will park away for every year. Now, next year, maybe 100,000, but because of the budget and the estimate, I put that at 50.
That's for replace that turf.
right,
Right, correct.
right.
10 years from now.
Yeah.
And
So,
then,
so the plan is, Councilman, is to take that 50 and put it into a separate reserve fund.
Yeah, I understand.
Restricted only for this year.
and what numbers do you have on here for road resurfacing at all?
370.
370,000.
What line is that?
That would be under public works. That equates to the 370 of the proposed millage.
What line number is that?
Hold on, I'll give it to you. It's under public works.
301?
That's 370,000.
It's 438.249 on page 10. Yeah, my page. 438.248, 249.
Page 65 of your handout.
$390,000. And out of that, that's taking into consideration, that's the 1 mil. So we have no monies put into resurfacing.
We have monies for pothole patching only.
Okay.
But it's gonna be.
If you knock out the 1 mil. So I think we should take a vote on that.
Well, I think you can, increase your real estate taxes by 100,000, as far as I'm concerned. You have 3,200,000, you collected 3,240,000 by November. I think you can increase that $100,000, so that could help some of it.
Well, that's funny math, though. I mean, you don't know where it's gonna come out.
No, but what do you got here? You don't know what you got here either, you look at the shot in the pie in the sky
I know,
here.
but we're trying to be conservative and hope that, we've done that for the last several years, where we've estimated conservatively, and we've been fortunate that our revenues exceeded our projections, which is why, you know, we're finishing with a surplus.
Dan, this is a plan that you're gonna turn over to a new council next year, one way or the other.
Right.
So, I'm telling you how I feel, you could put
That's
100,000.
fine, but I'm just saying, the reasoning was, we're just not trying to be overzealous here, that's all.
Well, on deed transfer, you could probably put another 25 grand in there too, but I'm not gonna keep keep going on with this. It's up to you guys on what you wanna do.
But I'd rather do it tonight instead of next week.
I'll be glad to cooperate with you whatever you wanna do, but I'm not gonna send one day.
Quite frankly, gentlemen, I'd rather just hash it out now. I mean, I
Absolutely.
know it's late, but I can tell you that, if I can, Mayor, just from the deed transfer, 70,000, that's an anomaly. We had $1 million transfer at the waterfront, that was the difference.
I know.
Had not that been that, would have been less than 50.
I'm aware, but at the same time, I think some new council should look over this because it's.
They have looked it over, they've been a part of
They've been a part of every meeting.
Well, I'll
we
know,
just-
they'll
just to
have
let you
some
know a little bit
opinions
from the
in
mayor.
January until February.
they can reopen the budget in January.
Exactly.
That's why this is rudimentary. We're gonna do this. They have the right to reopen the budget on January 3rd.
So proceed.
Joe?
Dan, do we know if all the appeals from the reassessment have been heard yet?
They're not.
Okay, and there, I mean, it seems like the way they've been going with those reassessments,
We've been
everyone
losing-
who appeals gets it lowered. So we're looking at, this 3,200,000 is maybe a little on the high side even.
And
Because once they start assessing, especially at the waterfront, I mean, we're not talking $100 or $200, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions.
our wage
That
tax,
could make a big
our
difference.
wage tax just a couple of years ago was about 690,000. It's now over $1 million. I contacted legal tax and said, I think this number actually should be higher than that. We're investigating. And they said, you might end up having to pay some of that money out to some other people. So,
Other boroughs.
yes, so
Okay.
they cautioned us to not be overexcited about bumping that number up, because that might not be all our revenue.
And I think turnkey will help us, in the future, get some more revenue, because, they seem to be doing a good job
Well,
there.
that's what we're hoping.
Getting their books together and, all that, so that
Do
should
we
help.
have all of our real estate tax collection now?
Yes.
All of it?
Dawn is
Well,
exonerated.
Well,
We may pick up another 2,000 before the end of the year, but
That's all?
98% of it's.
Oh, and by the way, the dues on, with the, COG, they're not 15, they're 12.5. That's $500 for you.
Also, we're adding $30,000 for a maintenance position for the field to our budget.
That is effective the second quarter of next year, probably going into the summer, so that will probably evolve into a $45,000-$50,000 annual, because we won't hire anyone right away until the field's ready. And I'm looking at a playground certified person for all of our facilities, the maintenance.
Can we do that from within as well? If we choose?
If we send the person out for certification.
Well, we will collect, we'll put together a job description and put it out there for applications. So anybody can apply if they meet the qualification.
I have to say, a couple of years ago when we did this, I was really upset that a borough with a budget this size was only putting $25,000 in the recreation budget.
And using it.
I was very upset about it, as you recall. And, here we are a couple years later, and we're putting $169,000 into the recreation budget, and we haven't raised taxes. I think that's a hell of an accomplishment. Plus ending the year with a $150,000 surplus. So we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Those quality of life things hopefully make Pat and his force's job easier over time when you improve quality of life things in your town.
What makes Pat and his family want to live here?
Well, that's what you have to do. You have to invest in parks, recreation, infrastructure, library, and hope that you attract, people that are gonna be good family people and not people that are dependent on government services, which are typically high crime.
Where is all that money going for recreation?
Don't you have a copy?
I have a copy, but where is it? This says it's going to 169 going to recreation. What's it buying?
You have page 66?
Well, it's maintenance and repairs at Kennedy Park, it's Troutman Field, it's Woodhill Park, it's almost $10,000 to
Mostly materials.
upgrade holiday decorations. I can
let Mr. Bicey address that, please?
I want the information.
Well, at least,
A lot of the Troutman Field is utilities, lawn cutting, cutting grass, cutting weeds. And then a big chunk of that is 90,000 in new money is dedicated to West Field.
Are we gonna have to, the concession stand, are we gonna have to fit all those with equipment? Is that gonna be our, I don't know, I would think that's usually, are we just gonna get a shell?
That usually comes with it, doesn't it?
Dave has a plan, so.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure when they talked, they said they were gonna put coolers and that in there.
Right, coolers, fryers,
Fryers.
grill. I thought all that was gonna be included in it.
That's what we were
We
told.
don't, we don't know that.
We have a plan.
I would
for
never
that.
say
I think they are.
That's great, I mean, that's just my
That's what we
question.
were told originally.
Kitchen, no, no.
We don't know.
Locker room, you can have a shower, locker room.
I thought they took it down to like 2 or 3.
Other than the 1 mil on the tax, which we'll defer to next week at the regular meeting, is there anything else in the budget that somebody has a specific question on or think that it's not a good number they want to change or question?
Yeah, I was wondering where I spent $105,000 in my equipment purchases. That's a typo. Or miscoded. And there's a number of those.
Well, wait a minute.
Is your overall number good though?
I don't know, I won't be, my budget won't be fully resolved for another week and a half.
Well, these are the numbers you gave me, Ed.
No, I didn't give you, this is the 2015 year-to-date number I'm talking about.
What, oh,
So,
that could be funny, forget that.
I know, and I have, when my budget's resolved in about a week, I'll be done. I'll get you a copy of my Excel program so that you know, because it's, everything I spend goes on there, minus the utilities.
Excuse me, if you look at the far right-hand column on that 105, it says miscoding.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, that's been miscoded by bookbinders, so we're resolving.
There's been a couple of those, I just wanna point that out, drives me crazy.
I asked about getting a flagpole painted. That's not in there. Are we getting prices on it, or?
No, I had Mr. Bicey check, maybe you're talking about number 4?
Number 1.
Number 1, did we take a look at that, Bob, the flagpole?
Not yet.
I don't know if that would be a maintenance item on the public works, but take a look at that, Bob.
Get a price on it, see what it would cost. It doesn't.
That would be part of maintenance.
You know, on your recreation, you have that recreation maintenance person, $30,000 hired.
That's about a half a year.
That's it. But when you hire this person, why, I don't know, but if you hire this person, you're gonna have, they gonna be full-time employee,
Eventually, yes.
and they'll have hospitalization, all that stuff.
That would be the plan. We have some major investments in our assets, so
I understand that,
that's the plan, yeah.
but I don't know why you gotta hire somebody just to, I don't know.
We don't know until this thing actually happens.
We don't really
We
know
don't
yet.
know.
All you gotta do is talk to people that have turf fields, and they'll tell you what you do. The same thing that guy was talking about here. You put it on the back of a lawnmower, not with the blade, and you pull it across the field. Doesn't take a rocket science to do that.
But Harv, you're gonna have security, man.
I'm not talking about security, Mayor, I'm talking about this maintenance part.
If I could add,
But I'm talking maintenance plus security.
All right.
That's a big, it's gonna be a big problem.
I understand
if you do
security,
that.
I'm talking about maintenance.
Well, there's gonna be maintenance, every time someone uses that field, they're gonna have to clean the field, they're gonna have to clean who's gonna clean the stands, who's gonna clean the bathrooms, who's gonna turn the water on, who's gonna know what's gonna go on in all the buildings there. We don't have a shed for that building back there. There's no storage area yet for any of the stuff we need. There's a lot of questions about the field that we don't know about yet.
That concession stand, I walked through everything last week, and there's a big portion of that back that I think is open.
Good.
I don't know if there's, how much, what the access is there.
Because I'm wondering, where are we gonna store, if we're coming with a fence, with fences for that field, where are we gonna put them in? What are we gonna do with all that stuff? Where are we gonna put the tractor, the machinery that we're gonna pull around? We're gonna put a public works building out there, or we want it separate?
Where do you put your tractor now?
I,
Garage. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about that, you know, when they drive to cut the grass with?
Yeah.
They drive, that can pull that machine across.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, where are we gonna put the other machine? And do we want that other machine back there, getting beat up with all them guys in there, moving this around, moving that around, dropping this here?
It's this other machine, what are you talking about, other machine?
The tow behind machine that they're gonna tow behind the.
It's not like it's a huge thing.
Okay.
It's not like it's a huge thing.
If I can add, I'm looking, Councilman Ingles, I'm looking broadly, we've got 12 parklets that have never been upgraded or maintained. This person is not just a Westfield person, this person's for all our recreation facilities.
Right. So what's he gonna do with Troutman or Woodhill?
It could be a she too.
He or she, yeah. Well, that has yet to be determined, but, you know, part of the maintenance, part of the assessment of the equipment there, what we need to do in getting other grants to replace those. It's a broader role than just.
I can't tell you.
I understand it, but for years, you know, for years, they had people running that place.
I can't tell you how many residents have complained to me about the conditions of Troutman Field. About the, not just the field, the baseball field, but the parklet to the left. And why, they've come into meetings here and said, what's going on here? It's just like a little trash dump down there.
Bob
Poison ivy that's there, I mean, hey,
give him the
I
floor.
told Bob quite a few times.
Yeah, it is, but it's part of the budget. Go ahead, Bob. Certified, playgrounds.
For insurance reasons, your playground should be inspected like every month. Or swing.
They asked that question on a public official's application, what's the surface, how often is
Yeah, it
it?
should be inspected, how much mulch is underneath them. Zero. Yeah.
It's not 1950 anymore.
No, that's how we've kind of been going. So there might be some fat in there, but at the same time, I don't.
That brings people together. When you have a premium field or a premium little park like that brings people there. They'll go there even if they're not playing baseball.
Well, and I think it also puts, you know, we've had just about every league here from Munhall baseball to people that play basketball, to Woodhill, girls softball league, all coming here. And really, that park person could be the point person.
Now the Cubans should come.
And the Cubans will come, to deflect that before it gets here. So that's why that money was put in the budget. Any other?
Honestly, I think we need to get some money in the budget for a bocce ball court. I'm serious.
You were Irish.
I am, but I think we should take the basketball courts out and put bocce ball courts.
Footers are already there.
It's after 9. After 9. Anything else on budget items specifically, other than bocce?
So what I'm hearing is I'll prepare a motion for next week of having a balanced budget at the current millage rate of 10.75. Is that?
I think that's what you got going.
Sounds good.
I think that's what you want.
Rock salt purchased.
Thanks for all your work on this, Bob. I will admit.
So my only complaints are what's in the budget.
Don't understand.
That's the only complaints what's in there. And that'll all work out, there it always does.
I know it does.
Anything else for the good of the borough before we adjourn? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Before you do, the next meeting, you know, is 7 o'clock after the meeting. The solicitor and the engineer is entertaining you down at Duke's right after the meeting. We have the upper level there reserved for Monday.
Upper crust. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Third.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. You don't think anything's better to do in your life at nighttime?
Yeah, we go ref the game and go.
How old are your boys? Two boys, no girls? Okay, you're lucky. So you got to meet Joe a little bit?
Yeah.
But he's in a different
Actually,
division.
he was talking to me.
His